Canada, Chris here, 36 years in Canada, and my wife is Serbian. Her life is Serbian. Her family. Um, I've spent the last couple of years trying to get them all to come back to Serbia so they can spend their life together, and we have accomplished that. We are now in Serbia. I've been making some videos talking about the differences between Canada and Serbia from a Canadian perspective, and I've enlisted ChatGPT to come up with a bunch of questions. Last couple of videos have been on cultural festivals and celebrations, education system, the difference in fashion and style between the two countries. Right now, I'm supposed to be talking about dating and romantic customs that differ between Canada and Serbia. Again, as usual, I don't have enough information from the Serbian perspective to be able to see the differences too much. I'm also married and my wife is pregnant, so I'm not out dating anyways. But the Canadian customs and so on and so forth are are pretty gross. I'm kind of pessimistic about it, but I'm going to keep this one short because it's not really my interest to be talking about this. So, in Canada, there is two things that make up whether people will be in a relationship or not effectively. The one is the societal expectations. People who are single are seen by their peers as being kind of like pitiful or in a negative situation to some extent for the most part. If you're not in a relationship, people kind of like wonder like what's wrong with you? Why are you not in a relationship? And focusing on yourself or personal development or any of these types of things, like just understanding like what you want out of life and having healthy expectations and boundaries on a partner to join your life is pretty much non-existent. People people just don't understand it. So the cultural expectation, for the most part, is people are with other people, and this gets kind of weird because then you end up with two people that are in a relationship for all the wrong reasons, right? Two people that are not merging, not understanding, not compatible, etc., etc., etc. So you end up with just like a lot of couples that are together for other reasons, and then that's where point number two comes in. It tends to be an economic thing. It's a financial exchange, is what it is. It's a business exchange at the end of the day. Minimum wage will bring you in after taxes probably about 1,400 Canadian dollars. Rent is 2,000 Canadian dollars. So one person is not capable of living alone. It's not possible. So the idea here, since it is not within our culture to live with our family and our friends and other people, is that most individuals tend to get in a relationship only for the fact that you can put up with the other person. And it's like maybe you're kind of like ultimately kind of like frenemies. You're like friends slash enemies, or you're like friends with benefits type situation that you guys are always like fighting and whatnot, because you know you're not going to marry this person, or that if you are, that's probably the biggest mistake in your life, but you're going to do it anyways, because the financial perspective is that without another person paying bills, you're not going to be able to eat or afford your rent. So people get into relationships for the weirdest reasons. And then the part that I don't want to talk about is basically all the kind of like red pill portion of things. Guys that are not getting attention at 19, 20 years old, within some right, because they're kind of like douchebags and they're not wise enough, they're not calm enough, they can't fuck good. Like it just, like why would anybody want to be with a 19-year-old boy? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. And then when guys get into the prime at 35, all the other people that are around their ages, right? All these other women that are, 30, 35 years old have been run through like a whore since they were 19 years old because of society and them wanting to, I don't know, girl power or some shit. But anyways, so I don't want to get into that too much, but I definitely see a lot of that happening in Canada, which is really kind of sickening. There's no traditional values for the most part in relationships or families. Culturally, it doesn't really exist. So people kind of just do whatever it is that they want to do, And for the people that have the mentality of something a little bit more conservative or traditional, or what I would consider just humanly normal, you kind of get stuck between these really weird situations, and so it's just kind of odd, right? And then, like, I don't think it's any better for the boys than it is for the girls. I mean, if you're a 19-year-old girl and you're kind of like, you're decent in school and you're good looking and things like this, it's like you're gonna have so many people that are interested in just doing whatever to get your attention, and it's like, what are you supposed to do? Not be in a relationship? You want to be in one. You want to be like all of your other girlfriends, who have guys, and you want to be taken out and you want to be treated well and stuff like this. And that doesn't really exist for a 19-year-old guy, because you don't have the funds, you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the ability, you don't have the experience, and so some girls will go for older guys, and those are the relationships that tend to work the best. I'm also biased because this is the situation that Bella and I are in. She's 23, I'm 36, so we're 13 years apart, and she has some modern values and she has some traditional values, and I've got some modern values and I've got some traditional values, and we're basically soulmates, right? So like, her and I work out really well, and she's at her peak, so to speak, and I'm at my peak, so to speak. We both respect ourselves and each other, which is good, and she's capable of giving me what I want and need, which is not always what I want, and then me vice versa. I have a whole bunch of life experience to be able to share, to be able to take care of her, and so on and so forth. So I think, our relationship is kind of ideal and would suit a lot of people in Canada. And the problem is that in the next 10 years, 15 years, when all these, 15 and 20-year-old guys grow up and they're 30, 35 years old and they're at their peak, the dating pool of women will have all substantially created a very large OnlyFans, crowd, and so on and so forth, and been involved in a lot of relationships that were unnecessary for whatever, fear or expectation, societal or financial, that they had from the ages of 19 to 29. So it's gonna be really tough for people in the next 10 years, and you can see all of that building now, and I kind of feel sad about it. In Serbia, one thing that I did see on TikTok that I thought was kind of interesting, which is not something that happens in Canada, is that there's an expectation with European women that men like do not split the bill. Like, this is not like an okay thing. Women are meant to be taken care of and pampered and loved and like catered to, and so on and so forth. And I think, wanting that attention, and maybe some of that's traditional value a little bit, is perfectly normal, and I agree with it, but that is certainly not how it happens in Canada. The women that want traditional men cannot find traditional men, and the men who want to be traditional, financially effectively cannot be, which is kind of, sad. So the whole thing's like really screwed up, man. People get into the weirdest relationships for the weirdest reasons, and it's like, you just like hold out and see if you guys can like figure it out, get married, have kids, buy a house, and stay married, by chance or something like this, and then it doesn't work. So yeah, that's my take on relationships between Canada and Serbia. I hope that was very enlightening for you. Please be happy that you're in Serbia, not Canada. Okay.